Hi, I'm Bob Harrington from Stanford University, and I have the privilege of serving as president of the American Heart Association this year. I'm here in Philadelphia at Scientific Sessions going into day 3, and I'm joined by the chair of Scientific Sessions Programming, Donald Lloyd-Jones from Northwestern. Welcome.
Thanks, Bob.
And his colleague, my colleague, Dr. Manesh Patel from Duke University, the vice chair. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the first few days have been terrific. We've had some good discussions, seen a lot of great science, done a lot of great interacting and networking. Boy, day 3, you guys have outdone yourself again. It's a fabulous day. Late breakers today are really interesting.
Yeah, and it's a full day. This is a 3-day meeting, and we're here all day long, and the science does not stop. And as you said, our last late-breaking session is going to cover really novel therapies targeting lipids. So we're going to have 4 different trials looking at RNA interference targeting different aspects of the whole lipidome. So Orion 9, another inclisiran trial, phase 3. We saw Orion 10 back on Saturday. This is Orion 9, focuses on patients with heterozygous FH. And then other RNA interference molecules targeting ApoC3, as well as ANGPTL3. So again, this rapid translation from genomic discovery to an RNA interference molecule, and we're now already in phase 2 trials with these last 2. Pretty amazing.
I mean, pretty amazing in the sense that RNA is a new area of therapeutics for cardiology.
Exactly.
You have some sessions that are just going to try to explain that to the cardiologists.
Exactly, because I think we're all still wrapping our minds around this, and how can we do an injectable once every 6 months and see dramatic lowering in LDL cholesterol levels? It's quite remarkable.
Yeah, and we're getting to the place where people are going to be thinking, are we vaccinating people with heart disease, right? And I think, so there's going to be a lot of interesting things to happen if these things are positive and continue to show us promise.
If they're positive and they're safe, giving a medicine once or twice a year is an extraordinary transformation as we think about implementation science.
Think about just adherence, right? Just think about what I try to convince my patients every day to do with their statin therapy and what I might be able to do. It's hard enough to get a flu shot, but let's just say you got everybody in. You could do something for heart disease.
Yeah, stop by your local pharmacy, get your injection twice a year.
Yeah,
right. That's a change in the
big
care
opportunity.
paradigm.
Big opportunity.
Some special sessions on Monday as well.
Yeah, there's this sort of the same kind of thing. Talk about an evolving field of science where we're going from a discovery to translation to patient care. Cardio-oncology is an area where that is. And if you think about...
Somebody's going to interrupt. Oncocardiology.
Oncocardiology, yeah, Don always gets me right. Yeah. Oncocardiology, keep the focus right? So the myocyte, the vascular biology, the injury that happens, whether it's with hypoxia, with a chemotoxic agent, with a variety of mechanisms that are now teaching us not only how to get resilience, let's say, for the cardiovascular system, but take that resilience into therapeutics that might go beyond just the patients being exposed to them. So the 2 exciting things are we're going to have a special session about that with a variety of leaders in our own section leaders in that area. And then, as you know, the AHA just announced the next strategically focused research network will be in oncocardiology, cardio-oncology, right. So an area for building more collaborations and learning this.
Yeah, just announced this weekend that the board approved a few weeks ago a new SFRN dedicated to this topic. I mean, the observation's an interesting one. People with cancer are 8 times more likely to die of heart disease than the general population. Right. And that's an extraordinary statement, and part of it might be the therapies, but part of it might also just be the cancer state itself.
Exactly.
Yeah, and probably the underlying risk that the patients who develop cancer, who develop heart disease, so there's, in my mind, a Venn diagram, some existing overlap of risk, and then some biologic processes happening that are probably associated.
So this one's a good one for scientists and clinicians.
Yeah, thinking about just, again, environment to disease and to the other sort of hits that happen to people. I think that's why it's taking off, I think, so much for 2 really common conditions with really adverse events. And
we're also going to see today a special session on the Bethesda conference decades later.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that.
So, so last year we had the Bethesda Plus 40 conference. It's a joint sponsored conference between AHA and NHLBI. You remember way back in 1978, the very first Bethesda conference was trying to understand, was the decline in cardiovascular disease death rates that was just being noticed, was it real? Why was it happening? How could we accelerate it? Fast forward 40 years later, at last year's sessions, we had the Bethesda Plus 40 conference. Now, worried, frankly, about the stagnation we've seen since 2011, really flat, sometimes even a little bit worse in certain cardiovascular disease death rates. And so that session, I think, really juiced the conversation. It actually gave NHLBI some ideas of the research portfolio they might want to be putting out. And this year's session, Bethesda Plus 41, grew right out of that. And the focus this year is on improving cardiovascular health in our youth for generations to come. And I think it's going to be a really exciting session for people who think about this.
You know, one of the things you said made me think, going back a couple of days, part of improving the health of our youth has to deal with e-cigarettes and vaping.
Yes.
And this is a meeting we are going to cover that in some detail, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the very exciting announcements from AHA on Friday afternoon, you were a part of that, announcing partnerships with Apple, new major efforts in advocacy, new funding for research in driving towards understanding nicotine addiction, particularly in our youth, because we know almost nothing about
$20 million.
$20 million.
That's
yeah,
fantastic,
so
and
an
certainly,
amazing announcement.
and certainly speaks
So get
to
your
the
applications in. Applications are going to be due in January, and we are going to give the money away by April.
Yeah, yeah, so this is going to move quickly, and it needs to move quickly. And this vaping is truly the new epidemic. 27.5% of high schoolers are vaping frequently, and 11% of middle schoolers. And this is such a highly addictive substance. We've got to get ahead of this. AHA is really leading the way.
And it's got to be a multi-pillar attack. We got to go after the science, we got to go after the communities, we got to go in the school, and we got to deal with local, state, and federal governments, because we've got to get everybody's help in this and to battle this. Now, lots been going on over the course of these 3 days. But you have some nice sort of wrap-up sessions.
Yeah, I think, we thought at the end of a full 3-day meeting, you've stayed, you've tried to catch it all, but how can you catch all of it over 800 sessions at times, right? So we have sort of trending topics on population, basic translational, and then clinical sciences. So people coming to the sessions can go and hear the things that are sort of updates on the things they probably needed to capture. And that's actually one of the most attended areas, because people like that sort of curated information at the end of the sessions.
And then we can also take advantage of the fact that people have had a chance to have some hallway chatter.
Yeah,
there's been discussion going on social media.
So yeah, so there'll be also just not in the trending topics. I often find that the conversation, both from the audience and at the stage level, the moderator panel level, is that people are now incorporating some of the feeling of the meeting and the conversation that's gone on.
Over the last couple of days, we've covered a lot. Anything you want to leave the crowd with?
Well, I think, I hope everybody had a great time here in Philadelphia. I think we really focused this year on the attendee experience. One of the things I think I'm proudest of is that AHA put a focus on childcare for the first time, having childcare available at the meeting for our younger attendees so that they didn't have to leave their family behind. They knew that their child was nearby. If they weren't doing puppy snuggles, they could snuggle their own kid. I think that's kind of the focus. Hamilton, the puppies, of course, but a great new venue, and I think I'm looking forward to coming back.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank, on behalf of Heart Association, both of you. This is a tremendous amount of work. So I want to thank you who came to the meeting and now are listening. I also want to thank those of you who stayed home and tried to keep up with the meeting. We hope we can see you next year in Dallas, because with these two leading the charge, we're going to have a fantastic meeting next year covering everything from basic, clinical, population health science, all of that and more coming to you next year in Dallas. So thanks for joining us here at Scientific Sessions.